Testing for YouTube. Testing 1, 2, 3. Now it's working. Okay, good.
All right, welcome everyone. Before we call to order our meeting, I will recognize and acknowledge that we work, live, and play in the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sechot and Hoopachassett First Nations, and we'll just be grateful for that. We do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items from councillors? Seeing none, any late items from our corporate officer?
No late items, Madam Mayor.
Hearing none, would somebody like to move approval of our agenda? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And adoption of minutes. We have the minutes from the special meeting on March 20th, 2025, and the special and regular meetings on March 24th, 2025. Moved to adopt by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the minutes, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And no unfinished business, so on to staff reports. And our first report is the RCMP quarterly report. We'll welcome Inspector Bruce.
And so how do I advance the screen as I go? Just to the right? Yes. Okay. Okay. So this is my first appearance providing a quarterly report to council. And what I have is a bit of a cover letter here that speaks to some of the statistics that I'm going to be presenting on today. This reporting is going to cover the period of January to March of 2025, and I've taken a look at some comparator stats from last year, as well as a few slides that will take you back a little further than that. I can say that last year, officers responded to a total of 2,965 calls for service this quarter last year, and then 2,406, or sorry, I need to rewind. In this quarter, officers received and responded to a total of 2,965 calls for service, and 2,406 of those calls occurred in the city of Port Alberni. The number of criminal code offenses are up by 70% compared to 2024, which marks an increase of 115 cases and a 279 criminal code caseload, up from 164 this time last year. The increases are seen across crime type activities specific to assaults, sex offenses, and drug offenses, both of which have increased by 25% and 80% comparatively since this time last year. Domestic violence is still high, but statistically down 36%, and theft under 5,000 offenses are down 14%. So in my presentation, I've got it right here. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a visual of some of the activities and folks that we deal with, or that our folks activities that we engage in on a regular basis. In the middle, you're going to see the inauguration of our Port Alberni Challenge coin. This is a point of pride for most detachments, and unique to Port Alberni, we use the Martin Mars as our symbol on the coin. Also, this year marks the RCMP's 50th anniversary of Women in the RCMP. And on the top left of this slide, you'll see that on a briefing one day after the briefing was delivered early in the morning, we took a picture, and you see all women there with one male member, which is something you wouldn't have seen 25 or 30 years ago. Basketball, we played a game with the youth at Sayshot. We won by 1 point. There's a few photos there. We had some enforcement and police presence when the Martin Mars left our community. That's why you see the boat there, and then you'll see our Constable Anna Chubakova there just outside the plane before it left. I just wanted to highlight here that our vessel is operated by boat trade members who often team with marine enforcement partners such as Shipwriter, DFO, Parks, CBSA, and Transport Canada. And I recently got an update from Sergeant Rod Pick, who's the Ops NCO of West Coast Marine Section, who advised that their patrol vessel, Lindsay, will be on the Port Alberni docks this summer, as they are looking to do patrols on the west side of the island, focusing on Bamfield, Hot Springs, Ahousaht, Nootka, and other places. So you'll see their cat moored at the quay here. Also in this slide, you'll see Milo, our PADS dog. He's an accredited facility dog and a benefit to the Victim Services Program here, assisting victims of crime and trauma in a variety of different circumstances. Okay, that's a bit of an overview of the topics I'll cover. Hopefully you can all see those numbers there. In operations, we're showing an overall total call volume for Port Alberni year by year for the last 5 years. I have the percentage decrease and increase that goes commensurate with those years. And quarter by quarter, we are on pace to see a total call volume reach a value somewhere just below 14,000 this year. In this quarter alone, our call volume has seen an increase of 3.45% in comparison to this time last year. Curfew checks would be considered a proactive enforcement item. In the first quarter for 2025, I can break it down to say that in January we did the bulk of the checks that you see there, 270, and then it decreases as we move into spring and our calls for service increase. 15 to 20 of any given night's checks can result in several breaches occurring, and these breaches necessitate added work to existing caseloads, as reports to Crown need to be prepared and forwarded in an ambition to pursue charges against those persons released into the community who are not adhering to their conditions. For traffic enforcement, these again are solely reflective of proactive efforts, and this stat in particular reflects the issuance of violation tickets and any warnings that we would issue. This does not include impaired driving or immediate roadside prohibitions reflected in next slides that are coming up. Nor does it capture motor vehicle incidents, hit and runs, or property damage over 10,000. However, impaired drivers taken off the road by way of suspension or criminal code charge is 75 in the city, 31 in the ACRD, 5 FNP for this quarter alone, totaling 111. As Port Alberni does not have a dedicated traffic section populated by traffic members, proactive efforts fall to frontline officers to take on enforcement when their time permits. We also enjoy the enforcement efforts of BC Highway Patrol, who attends to provide this focused enforcement as well. This is for the city of Port Alberni. So 2,350 calls for first quarter last year with an increase of 2,406 this year. Our biggest increase is seen in assaults, sex offenses, and drug offenses, as I've previously mentioned. Dubious decreases that still occur at a higher than desired rate are, as I say, domestic violence and theft offenses. In quarter one of 2024, the total mental health related calls were 207. And of these, 50 apprehensions were made at a 24.15 apprehension rate. In quarter one for 2025, total mental health related calls are 188, with 38 apprehensions coming in at a 20.21% apprehension rate. Often, calls don't come in as explicitly mentally health related and will more likely come in as an offense related call for service or an in-progress event that later becomes attributed to mental health. Anticipated hospital wait times can influence apprehension considerations, and if no gross symptomology inferring danger to self or others, this is where officers have to make decisions around waiting in a hospital versus trying to triage a situation with someone who might be borderline in the apprehension consideration. I just want to go back for a second here because I don't feel I clarified that stat at the bottom. When you're looking at mental health, you're going to see month by month, and then of course 24, 25. 62 reflects the total calls for that month, and then 16 would reflect the number of persons apprehended, commensurate with that month. ACRD calls are up from 336 for the same time period last year to 358 this year. Again, assaults and domestic violence showing as highest activity type reported to police, and I've captured the mental health calls in the City of Port Alberni grid, and they're not included here. If I'm going too fast and I need to entertain questions, is that okay? Okay. In this slide, I firstly need to apologize because the Huayet spelling is wrong, and that's my error entirely. Mental health calls, again, not included here. They're captured under the City of Port Alberni grid. What I can say here is that we have an Indigenous police section comprised of 4 members, and they deploy regularly to meet with band, council, and community members. Activities reported on include coffee with a cop, visitation at all schools, working closely with partner agencies that connect with youth and vulnerable people. Again, I referenced the basketball game that we all attended, bike rodeos that are coming up in the spring, canoeing and cultural trips to the Broken Group are on the slate. And then in the last quarter, they have 4 to 6 restorative justice referrals alone, predominantly for assault. Here we have the Port Alberni crime rate, which you can see has increased over the last 10 years. Reading right from the slide, your 2023 average provincial crime rate was 65 reported crimes per 1,000 person population, and the average crime rate for BC municipal RCMP policing jurisdictions over 15,000, which Port Alberni certainly is applicable to Port Alberni, was 85 reported crimes per 1,000 population. Port Alberni City's crime rate comes in at 179 on the municipal side, and the provincial area's crime rate is 47. 179 is a significant number because it's more than double the average rate. You could infer that members working here are working twice as hard as their peer counterparts in other jurisdictions. Port Alberni is second only to Prince George with a crime rate of 185, and their established strength is 149 with an operating budget nearly 4 times that of Port Alberni. Port Alberni's caseload is 104 and exceeds Prince George's by 102. This is supported by Statistics Canada measure of police reported crime that considers both volume and the severity of the crime. And according to Stats Canada, Port Alberni has a CSI, Crime Severity Index score of 137, with the national mark being 70. Crime trends published show that Port Alberni's violent crimes are at 773. That's combining municipal and provincial, pardon me. Nearest neighbors in Nanaimo average about 2,800, and their authorized strength is 161. Campbell River is closing in on 1,400 and their authorized strength is 49. Pardon me. North Couch and Duncan is hovering just over 600 and their authorized strength is 32, but they have a provincial complement of 27, bringing it to 68 total. I guess that, or 69 total. I'd have to check my math, but it's around there. Open source checks show Port Alberni is reputed to be one of the most dangerous communities on Vancouver Island, and that 1 in 9 persons in Port Alberni risks being a victim of crime. According to records, the last time Port Alberni Detachment had an increase to establishment was in 2021, when a regular member position was reallocated from West Coast Marine Services to Port Alberni Detachment. This was and is a provincial position. Prior to this, the last time Port Alberni had an increase to establishment was in 2006, which was a First Nations position. And as for new regular member positions created on the municipal level, this was last done in 2004. So for 21 years, Port Alberni's municipal strength has remained static at 34 officers, while the policing landscape has become increasingly dangerous, challenging, and complex. Over and above the increased reporting and changes in the over and above this increased report is the increased requirements on our reporting, changes in the investigative, MOU and policing standards, and since 2021, you have to consider that policing didn't have the same social media issues, internet, online offending issues to navigate. In fact, now we have to spend an inordinate amount of time writing production orders where necessary. Text messaging has formed a new form of communication, which incites and goes to harassment, exploitation, threats, frauds, child pornography, to name a few types of investigations that we deal with the advocacy of technology. Forensic identification section. These stats reflect all of the calls that occurred and was attended to. Thank you. Reflect every call that occurred and was attended with within the FIS jurisdiction for 2024. In the main, these are attended by 1 or more of the 3 trained members posted to Port Alberni. There are exceptions where we will engage, and we have engaged, a reserve constable to provide coverage whenever someone had to be absent or whenever Nanaimo was called to assist us. The stats generated for those instances are included in this grid right here. In the main, I can report that 130 plus calls are for Port Alberni alone, 50 plus for Oceanside, around 10 for Tofino Ucluelet, and 4 for Qualicum Beach, which showcases that the bulk of the work that they're doing is in Port Alberni. This next slide breaks it down by quarter. And you'll see that Port Alberni has seen 20 total files between municipal and provincial versus 15, 2, and 1 for other police jurisdictions. Regarding court and prisoners, pardon me. So Port Alberni's report to Crown Council submissions are second only to Nanaimo when comparing stats against neighboring detachments. This is a 70% increase compared to 2024 and an increase of 115 cases from last year. Nanaimo has seen an increase to 310 went from 310 to 328, and they have 3 court liaison officers, while Port Alberni jumps from 164 to 279 with 1 court liaison officer. Detachments of similar size, Comox, went from 215 to 165, I've got this in reverse. They went from 165 to 215. Duncan went from 114 to 155, and Campbell River went from 146 to 164. You're going to see that prisoner totals appear to have decreased. I can say that lodging prisoners can be a lengthy process that often takes officers off the road for lengthy periods of time. With ever-increasing calls, often necessitating priority response, persons with criminal jeopardy may be released on conditions and/or no process after collaborating with Crown, which affords officer safety in the immediate and also gives them additional time, investigational time, to adduce the evidence worthy of warrant requests later. But that is to say that in the spirit of keeping officers on the road, when dealing and interacting with offending persons, the deference to release, catch and release, is always there because of the shortage of officers. The most egregious investigations will often incite offenders being lodged and held for bail hearings, but of course, our considerations are going to always have to be different to make sure that we have an officer presence on the road for safety. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming to council and providing an update and to all the work that you and the members are doing. We know this is can be a tough community for sure, and very much appreciate that we have the RCMP here working as hard as they do. I do just want to comment on the RCMP staffing levels, as you've summarized that our complement hasn't grown other than the 2021 addition of the provincial RCMP officer, which we can take some credit for. That was our advocating that brought that directly, although we wanted more than one for sure. But I do think it's important to note that in the timeline noted, I mean, in the decade that I've been on council, there have been a number of, maybe not additions of RCMP officers, but a number of very intentional shifts of workload off of members and on to other positions that have been added along the way. So, I mean, in I think 2016, we hired the manager position that we didn't have here before and that had been asked for a long time. We've hired a number of clerk positions. In 2018, we took the community policing role, which was a member position. We took that completely off of their workload, hired a civilian position and other supports for that as well. And we've made a number of other similar additions of staff. So while it's completely fair to say that that the RCMP member complement hasn't grown, and I think that's important to recognize because obviously the crime has grown, and I know that the complexity of the files has grown for sure, and we've heard a lot of that about that over the years. Where we have tried to support has been in adding non-police resources, so adding staff, municipal staff and otherwise, to recognize that the highest value work should be being done by an RCMP officer, and the lower value work should be being done by people who are not members in the same way. So. I just have to say that because it has been a really intentional effort. I mean, certainly in the 10 years I've been on council, to take workload off of RCMP and provide more support. Though we have not added more members, we have been doing that along the way. So yeah, I take your point for sure that our actual complement hasn't grown, but the size of our RCMP support staff and supporting services, as well as we've taken departments and sort of withdrawn them from RCMP and added support otherwise, has grown for sure along the way. Comments from council? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions, if I may. Is there any specific things that you can point to which contribute to our ongoing high crime rate?
I can only point to the activity types that are inciting the greatest number of calls for service. When I say assault offenses are occurring in large numbers here, that's including all incarnations of assault. That's your assault causing bodily harm, your aggravated assault, like your general assault. It's all encompassing. And so I'm going by the statistics and trying to answer and be as accurate as possible. But this is a violent community, and the violence in this community can sometimes be gratuitous and quite serious. The stakes are high. How to reduce that incidence of violence? I would point to the prevalence of substance abuse, power-based crimes based on those activities, because one leads to another, and that's a very superficial answer when it would require a deeper dive to see how we would go about reducing the incidence of violence. But that's a start.
Thank you. And my next question is, Council has been very actively advocating the province for a community crisis response team. I think they have a new name now. But if we got that in our community, would that help alleviate some of the workload from the RCMP as well?
By crisis team, would that be your mental health? Okay, so we are looking at that. And I have seen other models that work in other jurisdictions. Where it's implemented, it's excellent. And what it does is, I can only speak to experience and how that looks, is that you would have a care practitioner, nurse, someone trained working in and being in the vehicle with an RCMP member. What that allows the team to do, because that's what they would be, the team could then attend your mental health related calls for service, and the nurse would have an ability to help the officer make that determination as to apprehension or not. The biggest boon to that situation would be having the clinician, nurse, care provider, what have you, parachute into the health authority, and we could jump queues and not have as lengthy wait times. And that's where it's paid the biggest dividend for us, is keeping us out of the hospital and on the street where you need us.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you for coming here today.
Yep.
Councillor Solta.
Oh, thank you for this really detailed report. I mean, I've seen reports before from the RCMP, and this one really is detailed. And as I was reading it at home, I'm going, oh my God, you know, as I was going through it. But I'm really kind of curious to know mental health and homelessness. It plays part in a lot of all the other subject lines, like robbery, assault, and would it play into it? Mental health or homelessness? Do you follow where
I'm not sure what your question is.
So a lot of the people, like, you know, regarding assaults and stuff like that, do they have obviously mental health issues? Are they homeless? I mean, do the lines all add up to the same?
Not necessarily. I think what I'm trying to really articulate here and have council understand is that a lot of these crimes are occurring because of a high incidence of violence, but violence isn't always tied to mental health. It can certainly be, but it's not always tied to mental health. We're dealing with people that have addictions. We've got people that they're offending in trafficking drugs. There's the power-based crimes that go with drug trafficking. You have your domestic violence crimes, you have your sex offense crimes, you have all kinds of crimes that go with that. To put it in a box and say it's all mental health would be disingenuous.
I should apologize. I also should have added the drug abuse and stuff like that in it. But I do have another question regarding, we have a lot of businesses here in town that have had a lot of break-ins, a lot of shoplifting and that. And do the stats really reflect? Because I hear more from the community than what the stats that I'm looking at is, because a lot of people don't want to report it because RCMP can't really do anything when a shoplifter comes in or a window gets broken because of the court system. I mean, they're out in the street. So how can they, and I know that's not one of the serious things in Port Alberni, but if you're a small business, it is serious to them. So how can they move forward and get help regarding what's happening with the shoplifting, and what can they do?
So I'm really grateful for this question, because the way that I did the statistics, you'll see a theft under value and you'll see a shoplifting value. And I parse them out specifically because one does not always mean another, right? We have something that's called scoring in our files. And if it's scored as a shoplifting, that's why it's reported as it, like it comes in the stats as a shoplifting. But quite often shoplifting can be a theft under. But theft under, you have to remember, is theft of bicycle, theft of property of any kind, right? It's not just shoplifting, but it all boils down to how we score those files. And so you can have someone that goes into the local liquor store and grabs bottles off a shelf, and that's a shoplifting, but it comes in as a theft under. So the numbers are actually bigger than you think. And again, it's going to be based on desperate people trying to take what they can when they can't otherwise afford to do so, and it's meant to fuel some of those other issues that they have. So
I just find that the people are getting more brazen shoplifters, you know, I'm going shopping, and off they go, and the store, whoever's behind the counter can't do a darn thing, and it's really frustrating, and it's a lot of anxiety on the
So
shoplifting.
we can only report or respond to the calls that are reported to us. And if they're not reported, then that's lost to us as the black figure of crime, so to speak. But, you know, there's some, I know Walmart has loss prevention officers. We're highly reliant on people to give us those reports in real time. And yes, they may not generate the same priority of response, but we certainly see them. Our call response is evaluated on a priority 1 being the highest, priority, and then it goes 2, 3, and 4. If it's not in progress or something that has just occurred with a significant time delay, we may not get there for hours later because we have other calls in this city that take a higher priority and require our attention. But we do, I would still encourage those calls and have them come in because to say we're not there immediately is not to say we won't be there eventually.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I appreciate it. Just wanted to thank you, Inspector Bruce, and just kind of echo the comments of Councillor Solda, just saying it's a very thorough report, and to have it here today on the screen, people can see it on YouTube as well, and then the information is easily accessible. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Councillor Haggard.
Just a comment, any interaction I've ever had with the RCMP officers in Port Alberni have been nothing but positive, whether it's been at the school, on a personal level, or me just driving by. So I really wanted to thank you and your members because you work under a lot of duress and have a very heavy workload, but at all times you're nothing but extremely professional. So thank you for your service.
Thank you very much for that. If I were to leave on any note as kind of an ending statement, would be to say that the service delivery that we're providing to Port Alberni right now is reactionary. I know that Inspector Hunter stood before council in 2017 and prevailed upon council to say and speak to the importance of proactive police work and the ability to provide crime reduction initiatives. The model that exists right now in Port Alberni is not sustainable. The workload is significant and it is taxing. The challenges of policing are complex, and with all due respect, I'm here to tell you that it's not sustainable in the long term. I would like to see our police service be able to provide more proactive policing to drive down some of those crimes and address and identify needs at the outset versus being purely reactionary to whenever the phone rings. But that is the reality that we're living every day, and it's significant.
Thank you very much. Okay, somebody like to move receipt? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you again. Really appreciate you coming today and providing the information. Okay, we'll move on to quarterly reports. And first we have infrastructure services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the first quarter report for infrastructure services, and I'd like to start with engineering department. I'll just go through high-level highlights of each area. So first, going through the engineering department, you'll see the table highlighting tasks completed in Q1 with lots of work around water service and storm sewer connections, some work at the cemetery. Ongoing work continues with the GIS department and doing geospatial data analysis and additions to our tables. Moving on to other work within the engineering department, our master plan process has been streaming along pretty steadily. We had in the first quarter our first open house, which was intended just for the transportation master plan. However, we piggybacked the other active master plans at the time as well, including the Parks, Rec and Culture, Fire Services, as well as the Stormwater. We had a quite good reception, lots of good input from the public on multiple areas. You'll see in the table kind of a status of each of the active master plans and where they're at. Some of the other work completed by our project managers in Q1 included the unveiling of the Welcome to Port Alberni sign, ongoing work at the Clutha Haven Market development. The SOMAS site has been finalized at least at this stage, for handover to the partner developer that the city has chosen. We have replaced the the public works yard roof, which was in dire shape last year. Work continues at the Port Pub demolition for some asbestos remediation into ultimate demolition, which is slated for this quarter. Some minor renovations here at City Hall, as we're all aware, in the front area, as well as in here in Council. And the Bird Street resurfacing project is active with lots of work happening right now, with the expectation that it'll be wrapping up here in Q2. If no questions on engineering, I'll just continue on into Public Works. Just some high-level highlights for overall some of the administration work we've been doing. Our ops manager doing some extensive work around the BC Transit bus shelters and bus stops program, looking at modernizing our inspections and keeping a good level of service to keeping those assets in good shape. We've also had a hard look at our street name sign replacement, and this includes looking at the condition and the shape and the reflectivity of some of those signs and replacing them as required basis. As directed by council, the street sweeping program has been reduced in level of service. However, you will see the sweeper out right now in conjunction with upcoming work with our line painting, and we will be maintaining budget as, of course, directed by council on that. Moving on to water utility operations, just some high-level stuff from Q1. We completed annual calibration and certification of all of our analyzers. We did some work out at the China Creek Dam and the traveling screen, and you'll see in the attached report some photos of staff cleaning debris upstream of the dam before and after. And you'll see also the ongoing routine tasks in the table as well, a number of testing, flushing, maintenance activities as well. Moving on to sewer operations, again, high-level Q1 activities. We had all of our grit chambers cleaned at all of our lift stations. We had a SCADA PLC pack replaced at our Argyle pump station, as well as quite a bit of work put into some work-safe requirements for isolating some wet wells at our Wallace and Josephine pump stations. You'll see the table showing sewer activities with a number of sanitary main inspections and the catch basin maintenance and inspections in Q1. Moving on to roads and drainage, high-level Q1, again, ongoing regular maintenance of lanes, boulevards, sidewalks. We have also added in an additional 3 more rectangular rapid flashing beacons at Compton at Kitsuxis, another one at Gertrude at Latham, and upgraded the one at China Creek at 10th Avenue. I'd also like to point out that we covered off a couple items that were forwarded to us from the Traffic Advisory Committee, which included some safety measures at the E.J. Dunn Elementary School in Upper Argyle, as well as ongoing work. We're looking at putting in a 4-way stop on Latham at Helen, and both of those measures were completed within operational budget without requiring council approval or capital budgeting. As mentioned earlier as well, we will be completing line painting here very shortly with our contractor. So you're going to see quite a bit of work at the street sweeper and other activities around as well. The table highlights a number of activities that the roads and drainage crew have completed in Q1. I won't go through all of those. This goes back to January with snow removal up to including lots of laneway maintenance and pothole repair and all that sort of thing too. Moving on to fleet, you'll see the number of tasks completed in Q1 with our fleet team, as well as we had a couple of new vehicles replaced that were due for end-of-life replacement. In conjunction with that, we also extended the lifetime of, I believe it was 13 vehicles that were slated for replacement, but we decided to keep them longer than expected based on the condition. As we move into Q2, lots of work right now happening in maintaining and getting all of our equipment ready for the summer season. And then finally, under the solid waste collection, you'll see the tables showing the 3 waste streams collected in Q1 in tons, both garbage, organics, and recycling. And with that, I'll open up to any questions council may have.
Thank you very much for the report. Questions? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Appreciate this. Again, a great report. And I'm glad, again, it's on YouTube and all the packages can be found online. So just very happy to see more pedestrian crossing beacons installed here in our community. Must say, with Mr. McDonald being here, it's in such a short time, relatively short time, that there's been a lot of work done in that regard. So I must commend you, sir. Also, love to hear the stop sign at Helen and Latham is something, I'm not saying it was my idea, but it was something we talked about at Traffic Advisory, but staff has to do their job, has to do their traffic counts and that. So, but I believe that that is a way where we can stop the flow of traffic racing up and down Latham, at least in that section. And that's what the people have been talking about for years up and down there. So again, kudos to Mr. McDonald and his staff for all that hard work.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for the report. Moved, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Corporate Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today I'm pleased to present the Corporate Services Department quarterly report for the period of January 1st to March 31st. I'll provide a brief overview of legislative services, and after doing so, we'll invite Alicia up to present on communications, followed by Mary Claire for community safety and social development. During the first quarter, corporate services facilitated a total of 6 regular meetings, 13 special meetings, 5 committee of the whole meetings, and 4 committee meetings. A summary of council resolutions reveals that we captured a total of 183 directives in the first quarter of 2025, with 20 of these resolutions currently in progress or outstanding. It's been attached to the report, and staff comments are included for new dates and action steps related to these resolutions. Key activities during this quarter included the adoption of 5 bylaws, the approval of 4 new administrative policies, which have been attached for your review, and execution of 11 agreements. Our primary focus for the first quarter centered on supporting council in the financial planning process, which of course culminated in the successful adoption of the 5-year financial plan. We do continue to face challenges, including a number of agreement reviews that remain in holdover status and require attention. And we also recognize the necessity for improvements in our records management processes to enhance overall efficiency. Looking ahead, our key areas for focus will include continued updating and establishing of bylaws and policies to ensure effective governance, prioritizing the renewal of critical agreements, and conducting a thorough review of the council procedures bylaw in the second quarter to improve our meeting functions. Thank you, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer or invite Alicia up to speak to communications.
Thank you very much. Any questions at this point? Seeing none, we'll go to Alicia.
Thank you, everyone. Happy to be here on today, and this is the start to Tsunami Preparedness Week for everyone's knowledge. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Communications Department. It's an action-packed one, so I'll start off. We did 5 bi-weekly City Connect advertisements, and in this first quarter, we primarily focused on the 5-year financial plan and promoting the Let's Connect Master Plan's open house. We distributed our tri-annual City Connect newsletter to over 7,000 residents. With that, the focus was a My City e-billing registration, and this was to invite people to register for the electronic platform in an effort to reduce administrative costs. FYI, it cost about $2 to process each utility bill. So we're looking sort of month over month to produce some cost savings for the city for that. We featured 6 media releases to various news outlets across Vancouver Island. These focused on the QP overtime ban, the water quality at city facilities, the launch of the Clue to Sea Haven Marina Initiative or revitalization, of course the new Welcome to Port Alberni sign, and the adoption of the 5-year financial plan. We also put out 85 Facebook posts, again featuring many of those initiatives like the Let's Connect Master Plan's open house. We also had one for the Trans Day of Visibility and opportunities to register for various parks and recreation programs. Just as a highlight here, the city currently has 6,312 Facebook followers. And over the last quarter, we had an increase of 314 individuals. So that's quite a substantial following for a municipality of our size. We also featured several Facebook events, including the Knits Alive Family Fun Week, Literacy Day, and the John Douglas Memorial Polar Bear Swim and Youth Nights at the Multiplex. We continue to monitor the use of the X platform, and I'm engaging with municipalities around Vancouver Island, talking to them about how they are utilizing the platform and how best to move forward. So I will come back in either Q2 or Q3 with some recommendations on what social platforms the city should continue to use. We also conducted multiple media interviews coming from our press releases. These focused on the shift in the economic climate and the tariffs, economic diversification in our community, Clutha Haven Marina project, among several others. And we participated in several videos with The Scoop, highlighting various projects and initiatives around our organization. We also launched a new Let's Connect engagement page for the Transportation Master Plan. The project received 3,557 visits this last quarter. That's an average of about 40 visits per day. And there have also been 304 contributions to various project pages and new registrations on the platform. So this is something that I'll continue to monitor and promote for our city. And then as well, you heard from Jim that I assisted in supporting the Transportation Master Plan open house on several fronts. And through the Let's Connect page, we did 3 newsletter distributions, 2 on the Master Transportation Plan and 1 on the SOMAS lands. And then finally, an engagement process, or rather a communications process on the Bird Street surface upgrades. And that involves a fact sheet out to over 300 residents in the area, and as well some parking reminders for folks about where their vehicles should go during active construction. So if there are any questions, I'm open to them.
Thank you very much. Questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for the report. Mary Claire.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to talk about community safety and social development and our quarterly report. The first section that I'll focus on is on bylaw services. Within bylaw services, we, starting on in your package, some of the key highlights that were memorable throughout this quarter were to really partner with the RCMP on a number of initiatives. One of them was the green space at Wallace and 6th. That's been problematic for quite a while with people hanging out there and, you know, stolen goods, fires. And so our bylaw officer worked proactively with the RCMP to come up with some kind of measures that would actually make it a safer space in the community. And also there was a problematic person that was camping in a residential and commercial area. And it was going on for quite a long time. And so we were able to work with the RCMP to successfully resolve that. It was not something that we would have wanted to encourage, but for a while the neighbors were turning a blind eye to it. So anyway, that was very successful. Working with the SPCA, we've been able to roll out our permanent dog tags. And as a result of that, we've issued more dog tags in January than we did last year. There was 526 issued, and people seem to like the approach that we're not doing an annual tag replacement. It's a cost-saving measure to the city. And then our ongoing business, which is abandoned and unlawfully stored vehicles, that continues all the time, 47 of those, and 22 calls for encampments, working with our social services agencies to successfully manage those. One of the new stats that we're collecting, you'll see in your report, that we're also starting to track how many people are using the public safety building for meetings and also for the public washroom. It's a benefit to the community. People really like it. And so that's included in our statistics that we have. One of our projects that is just been drafted is our contract for to contract with the collections agency to start collecting on unpaid fines. The statistics that are shown in your report of a total of 118,770 could be slightly inflated because some of those will go to remedial properties. They'll be transferred over to remedial properties, but it is a significant amount that we are encouraged, we do experience. Right now, we have an outstanding 7,349 outstanding fines for this quarter. So I'll move on to community policing unless there's any questions about bylaw.
Councillor Mealy.
Just to clarify, the outstanding fines is $7,349.50.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the way it came out, I'm sorry, madam, it sounded like there was 7,000 outstanding fines. That's all it was. That's all, guys.
yes,
That's all it
the
was. Just
dollar
dollars, just
amount.
dollars. So that's all clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Mealy. No other questions? Okay. Moving on to community policing. The community policing program is going through a thorough review, and the activities are being managed by myself. And in Q2, we're going to be proactively engaging with the RCMP and also the coordinator that manages all community policing programs throughout BC. She will be coming here in May to do some extensive training with myself and the inspector and staff sergeant of the RCMP, as well as meeting with the community policing volunteers and with city officials. And so you can look forward to receiving news about that. As of the end of March, we had 23 active volunteers. We're down a few, about 5 left as a result of the administration changes. But they still managed to contribute 832 hours in the 3-month period of time. And some of those activities were, there was a community event on fraud awareness, which was very, very successful, held in partnership with the Sunshine Club. There were 85 people in attendance, and at the Chamber of Commerce as well for the business community, and both of those presentations were well received. 3 crime prevention through environmental design assessments were undertaken in this period of 3 different businesses at the Alberni Towers, the John Paul II Elementary School, and at the new building for ADAPS and the Foundry. The volunteers are still managing to go out 2 to 3 times a week in evenings from 7 to midnight. And one of the things that we'll be working very closely with is how that reporting comes in, and then working proactively with the RCMP to then direct the patrols throughout the rest of the week. The foot patrols and business check-ins are ongoing. Distracted driving, there were over 9,000 vehicles tracked, and 9 drivers were reported to the RCMP to send out warning letters. And as well with Speedwatch, there were almost 5,700 vehicles, and 633 were reported to the RCMP. Those are drivers that are exceeding the speed limit by over 20K. So that concludes the community policing report. I'll go on to social development unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Mealy.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just from the short experience that I've had with the community policing, just with the Speed Watch, amazing program, amazing volunteers. And we, when I say we, the volunteers tracking in some school areas as well. So just something that's ongoing in this community for a long time that people just need to be aware, especially in school zones, to slow down. So it is disturbing to see such a high number that are driving in excess of 20 kilometers an hour. So, and especially in a school zone as well. So just like to remind the community to please, especially around our youth, to slow down.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Mary Claire, for highlighting that number. That is very surprising. I assumed at first it would be more than 10 kilometers over the speed limit, but wow, 20. We talk a lot at this table about, and we have for years, about our roads and how they're really built for speed. And so we obviously are making a concerted effort to narrow roadways. When we redo them, we're redoing them to a new standard that will be more pedestrian focused and less ability to drive as fast as you want. But in the meantime, and as we do that, which will be a long, slow process, yeah, I really appreciate that the volunteers are out and that those warning letters are going out, because that is shockingly high numbers. And we know as well, obviously, that we have a higher than provincial average pedestrian incident and of course cyclists as well. Some really concerning numbers. So appreciate you guys being out doing that work. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that people talk about when we talk about traffic calming and redesigning our roads. And I must just suggest to the citizens, we're trying our best to make sure people stay alive. We're not trying to inconvenience someone turning a corner with a boat trailer or, but there's reasons why these are being done, and the numbers are here now. We can take a look at it. Again, it's another report just saying that there's just so many people driving in excess, and these traffic calming designs are meant to combat that.
And just picking up on that, thank you for the comments, Madam Mayor, is with the Speed Watch program, the focus every shift is on at least 1 or 2 school zones. And today they were out, and that they were also, there were quite a number of them, so quite a presence. And we're really grateful for the support from the RCMP, because this is a new endeavor for myself, and so the learning curve is really large, but I feel very, very supported. So that's particularly thank you to Inspector Bruce. Social development. One of the projects that we would like to actually come back and do a presentation to Council is the partnership that we have with the Coalition, which is in conjunction with the Alberni Clayoquot Health Network and Island Health. We've done an extensive community mapping project, which you received a very small picture of. Well, it's actually a large picture, but you received a small version of it. But if you click on the link to it, that's a large community mapping project where we tracked, as a result of all our work that we've been doing, we tracked the number of services based on the social determinants of health and then categorized them. But more importantly, we also tracked where are the gaps in services. So the green squares indicate where the services are, the orange dots indicate where the gaps are. And that's the ongoing work of the Coalition, which we are now meeting on a monthly basis at the end of the last Wednesday of the month for 2 hours. And we're starting to have some very good discussions around how to collectively advocate on specific areas where there's gaps. So you can look forward to more of that information coming your way, and perhaps we'll do a presentation to Council on it, because it's very interesting work. We facilitated throughout since September, there's been 12 situation table meetings, and we've had 12 referrals with 9 individuals either accepting services or accepting services that were offered after the fact, which is a really high success rate because it's one person at a time. And those are all high-risk situations that otherwise wouldn't necessarily have been identified. We facilitated a partnership with the BCEHS community paramedic to partner with the Island Health Mental Health team, and they meet on a bi-weekly basis as a pilot project. And they go out to various parts of the community, and it was an idea and a project that I had learned about, which I pitched to the two organizations, and they were able to partner on it right away. So no cost to any one of us. It's part of the regular course of business, but it's having an effect for marginalized people. So we do have a bit of a status report on the coalition work and some of our goals that we have achieved to date. I'll just let you peruse that at your leisure. And with our budget, with the Port Pub additional costs for services under the contracting with the bylaw services, we look like we've spent about half of our budget, but some of it's going to be reallocated to the Port Pub. Where we haven't spent a lot of money is on the fleet vehicles, partially because we had the one bylaw officer working for such a long period of time. Now we have 3 bylaw officers as of the middle of March or the end of March, and 2 with a full-time and 1 on term for 6 months. And so that we're starting to really see the benefit of that even just this week. So we're pleased about that. 1 is on a graduated return to work, which we're working through that plan with WorkSafe BC. Our public safety building, again, the costs haven't really been realized so much for the building, nor has the community policing budget, but you will see an adjustment for that in Q2. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Solder.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question regarding the bylaw officer. Are you, we have 3 now, so are we working them Monday to Friday, or are we going to stagger it out?
We're looking at doing a rotational schedule once the temporary bylaw officer is fully trained and the graduated return to work plan starts to shift into full-time hours.
So would we do any weekends at all? Because, you know, if somebody turns their back for weekends, I can do anything.
In the collective agreement, we have a schedule within the collective agreement. We'll be working with the staff on that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much for the report. And I believe that's the end of the corporate services report. Wonderful. Thanks to all the managers. And would somebody like to move receipt? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Any opposed? None opposed. On to the procurement report. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in front of council today is the first quarter of 2025, and here for any questions that council might have for the procurement report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to bylaws. Item number 1, we have tax rate bylaw number 5124, 2025. Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the tax rate bylaw is effectively the way to balance the financial plan. So we get the revised roll, which came in at the end of March, that provides the tax roll that we use to set the tax rates. So with that, the revised roll did see some non-market change, adjustment from what we planned in the completed roll. That was about $124,000 less than we had planned because of some changes in light industry. So with that, the first resolution or the recommendation that administration is providing to council is to adjust the financial general purposes taxes to reflect the lowering of that non-market change. And if council recalls, that non-market change is set aside to provide asset renewal in the asset management reserve. So with that change, that will be reduced, and that is in the line 28211 in the financial plan. So with that, that would reduce that contribution. But that is based on the direction from council with a non-market change. The impact on the taxation to the single-family residential home remains at 13.98% with this tax rate bylaw in front of council for consideration. The tax share is provided in Table 1, so that's in the staff report. Also, the shift in tax share that we've seen in Table 2. Obviously, we've seen quite a shift away from major industry in the last 20 years, and that was a commitment that was made in successive councils, and we are currently sitting at 18.72% for major industry. With light industry, we did see a drop in the actual assessed value because there were some changes on the Port Authority property. That was the largest shift. That was about $2.1 million in assessment roll. So that's why you see the shift in the non-market change also. With that, the required rates for funding for the financial plan are set based on the tax rates that are in front of council today. So with that, if council has any questions, I'm here to present any answers to you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Mealy, would you like to read the motions?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. I move that council direct administration to amend the City of Port Alberni 2025-2029 financial plan bylaw number 5123 2025 as follows. Lower line 11111 general purpose taxes from $35,744,832 to $35,619,845. Lower line 28211 transfer to reserve asset management from $1,522,784 to $1,397,797 and $397,797.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Haggard. Any comments on this? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And if you want to continue?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Port Alberni tax rates bylaw number 5124 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Port Alberni tax rates bylaw number 5124 2025 be read a second time.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Port Alberni tax rates bylaw number 5124 2025 be read a third time.
And I'll second that again.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And on to item number 2, fees and charges bylaw number 5125. Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before you today for consideration is the fees and charges bylaw. And so this speaks to the various services provided by the municipality to ensure cost recovery and efficient service delivery through a structured fees and charges schedule. The bylaw recognizes the importance of formalizing our fee structure through an overarching bylaw. So what this will serve, it will replace the existing fees and charges bylaw and will include a comprehensive list of services along with their associated fees. The proposed bylaw outlines various categories of fees and charges, including administrative costs, development services, infrastructure services, law enforcement, museum services, fire protection, and parks, recreation, and culture. Each category will feature specific fees detailed in the schedules A through N. Notably, we have proposed increases to certain fees and charges to align with inflation and service delivery costs, particularly within the animal control fee schedule and the Greenwood Cemetery schedule. And that reflects new service provisions that weren't previously captured. Adopting the fees and charges bylaw in this manner will assist in providing a clear and consistent framework that allows us to establish and adjust fees in response to evolving costs and community needs. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the overarching bylaw, and should you have specific department fee and charges related questions, directors are available to speak to those.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? Seeing no questions, Councillor Dane, would you like to read this one?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. I move that fees and charges bylaw number 5125, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Dane, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Dane.
I move that fees and charges bylaw number 5125, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Dane, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Dane.
And I move that fees and charges bylaw number 5125, 2025 be read a third time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dane, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. On to item number 3, Animal Control and Pound Bylaw number 5126, 2025.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The new animal control bylaw reflects the wording, some wording changes, and also the fee schedule has been moved into the fees and charges bylaw. And so by centralizing it, really streamlines the administrative processes. So it was a small change to the animal control bylaw.
Wonderful. Are there any questions from council? Okay, Councillor Haggard, would you like to read this one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that animal control and pound bylaw number 5126, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
By Councillor Dame. Any comments? Seeing none. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Haggard.
I'd like to move that animal control and pound bylaw number 5126, 2025 be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Haggard.
I'd like to move that animal control and pound bylaw number 5126, 2025 be read a third time.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much. And Cemetery Management Bylaw, number 5127, 2025.
Thank you, Mayor. As the others, a couple minor amendments to the cemetery management bylaw. There were some additions made to definitions. We made some minor changes to the fees and charges, which were pulled out in the overall fees and charges bylaw, but I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have on this.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, Councillor Solda, would you like to read this one?
Madam Mayor, I move that the City of Port Alberni Cemetery Management Bylaw number 5127, 2025 be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Solda.
I'll move that the City of Port Alberni Cemetery Management Bylaw number 5127, 2025 be read a second time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, and Councillor Solda.
And I'll move that the City of Port Alberni Cemetery Management Bylaw number 5127, 2025 be read a third time.
And I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much. And on to item number 5, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal Bylaw number 5120, 2025. And this is just a final reading. Councillor Verbrugge, would you like to read this one?
Thank you. That solid waste collection and disposal bylaw number 5120, 2025 be now finally adopted, signed by the mayor, corporate officer, and numbered 5120.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Verbrugge, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 6, Business License Regulation Bylaw number 4951-3, 2025, and another final adoption. Councillor Mealy, would you read this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that business license regulation bylaw number 4951-3 2025 be now finally adopted, signed by the mayor and the corporate officer and numbered 4951-3.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Mealy, seconded by Counselor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to G, correspondence for action. And we have one item today, and it is a letter dated March 27th, 2025 from the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District requesting council authorization to conduct a feasibility study on the Echo Aquatic Center. Councillor Dame, would you like to read this? And then we can ask any questions or have discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that council authorize the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District request to conduct a feasibility study for renovations to the existing Echo Aquatic Center.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Dame, seconded by Counselor Mealy. Any discussion? Counselor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate all the work that the regional district has done, especially our representatives. So the letter just states that the ACRD has allocated $75,000 to hire a consultant for this purpose. So if this passes, I anxiously await to see what the result will be.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to sort of comment on the same. I know there's been a lot of discussion in the community about obviously wanting a new aquatic facility. However, really sticker shock over what the cost of that aquatic facility may be. I don't know if it is a viable alternative to renovate the existing aquatic center, but I think it's an extremely important part of the process to, at minimum, get real information on so that we can say yes or say no as a valley. So appreciate that the regional district is taking the lead on this. I think that however it ends up going, having this information at hand to be able to go to the public and say, you know, what option do you choose? Is it a renovation? Is it a new facility, small, large, et cetera, will be critically important. And I know a lot of members of the community have been asking for it as well. So I think it's a really positive step if we can work on this together with the regional district continuing to lead. Councillor Haggard, did you want to add anything?
I was unfortunately away when this came up during budget time, but I'm actually a little bit concerned about the amount. I thought it would be a little bit higher than that because if they're going to do a full feasibility study, they're going to have to do coring to see the stability of the concrete and the cement in the pool. So I'm thinking once the RFP goes out, I think this is going to be a little bit low. That's my only concern, but happy this is moving forward.
For sure. Thank you so much. Okay, motion has been moved and seconded. Seeing no other comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to proclamations. We have 4 proclamations today. Item number 1, we have a letter dated April 2nd, 2025 from the United Steelworkers requesting council declare April 28th, 2025 as the day of mourning and fly the National Day of Mourning flag at half-mast on April 28th. Would somebody like to make that motion as written? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move the council on behalf of the United Steelworkers Local 1-1937 declare April 28th, 2025 as the day of mourning in recognition of workers either injured or killed on the job and fly the National Day of Mourning flag at City Hall at half-mast on April 28th.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Any comments? Okay, I just want to thank the Steelworkers for leading this every year. They have continued to do this for many years, often hosting an event as well, and I think it's a really important way to recognize an important day in the community. Okay, seeing no other comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 2, we have an email dated March 3rd, 2025, requesting May 1st to 31st, 2025 be proclaimed as Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month in Port Alberni. Would somebody like to make this motion? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that council on behalf of Save Your Skin Foundation proclaim May 1st to 31st, 2025 as Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month in Port Alberni.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Solda.
Just a quick comment, Madam Mayor. I just remember our old mayor, past mayor, I shouldn't say old mayor, Ken McCrae. He had skin cancer and he would talk about it when this came up. So I just want to say, yeah, this is so worthwhile for people to get checked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to raise awareness. Okay, seeing no other comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 3, we have a letter dated April 4th, 2025, requesting proclamation of May 2025 as the National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. Would somebody like to make that motion? Councillor Haggard.
I'd like to move that council on behalf of Alberni Valley Hospice Society declare May 2025 as National Hospice Palliative Care Month in Port Alberni.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 4, an email dated April 3rd, 2025, requesting proclamation of September 2025 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Somebody let Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the council on behalf of Prostate Cancer Foundation Canada proclaim September 2025 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in Port Alberni.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any comments? Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And on to correspondence for information. I'll go to our corporate officer.
Thank you. So we do have a letter from the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, and that's in response to council's meetings with the ministry at UBCM and our follow-up letters. We have some information on the BC Transit Baseline Funding Stream from the Ministry of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities. We received some information on an expanded rental assistance program and shelter aid for elderly renters from BC Housing. Information from the Ministry of Health on a workplace nasal naloxone project. The Highway 4 Disruption and Resiliency Solutions Report from the Chamber of Commerce. Information from AVICC reporting out on the reforming of the Local Government Act and the feedback they received. A copy of a letter from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch regarding cannabis taxation sharing and municipal-owned cannabis retail stores. The ACRD Keeping You Connected for March 2025, a District of Seashelt AVICC resolution regarding mandatory good neighbor agreements, and lastly, the Museum and Heritage Commission March meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any items councillors would like to speak to? Councillor Haggard.
I would like to pull out item D, the letter from Ministry of Health regarding the workplace nasal naloxone project. I would like for the city to support this initiative and support the city in taking advantage of the naloxone project, and also support staff training and using naloxone. I think anywhere where the public is involved with the city facilities, there needs to be trained personnel there and naloxone on hand. We hope that we never have to use it. It's just like our fill breeder we have on hand. We hope we never have to use it, but it's there if you ever need it. I just know there will be a cost to it, but you can't put a cost on saving a life, so I'd like to support this project.
Thank you very much. And I know that our staff have done naloxone training in the past, but it has been a few years since we did a larger staff initiative. So I think this is a great option for staff to look at. Completely agree with you. Councillor Mealy and then Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to pull out item J, which is the Alberni Valley Museum and Heritage Commission meeting in March. It was the beginning of March, so we've had one since, but just wanted to highlight again, I know some people know in the community, but Twin City Brewing is going down into the train station. Mr. Aaron Coline made a fabulous presentation to the commission, and the commission just notes, and I just want to read it here, that the commission wishes to formally note the commitment Twin City Brewing has paid to historic preservation in the development of their project. The attention and care given to the design ensures the look, feel, and spirit of the train station will remain. The commission thanked Mr. Coline and Twin City Brewing for championing historic preservation in Port Alberni and wishes them much success. So we're going to be getting some updates from Mr. Coline. He's very happy to come to the commission and talk. So thank you to them, Twin City Brewing, and thank you to the Heritage Commission for all they've done for this project as well.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that and reading it out. And I really do want to recognize the Heritage Commission for, obviously, I think Mr. Coline has been a fantastic applicant in that way and really engaged, but you have to have a willing party to be willing to accept some change and still like keep the building as historic as possible. And I think that there were a lot of sort of hard asks here because the building did require a lot of change, and the Heritage Commission, I think, really worked with the applicant in a meaningful way. So please pass along my thanks when you go to the next meeting. I think we, as our only heritage building in town, we do want to really recognize it in a meaningful way. And when we started this project many years ago, updating the train station and then moving on to looking for a tenant, it was really my hope that we would allow a lot more people to engage with that beautiful heritage building in a way that they hadn't been able to before because it was largely closed. And I think that we've achieved that, and I'm really looking forward to people in our community and tourists being able to visit and still having it be a heritage building that we can feel confident really keeps with the heritage aspects that it did have. So really happy with how everything has come together on both sides and really want to recognize that. Councillor, oh, great, wonderful, good. Councillor Solda's good. Any other comments? Councillor Haggard.
Madam Mayor, do we need an motion to support the workplace naloxone project, or?
Never hurts.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion that the City of Port Alberni supports and takes advantage of the workplace nasal naloxone project from the Ministry of Health and supports staff training in using naloxone.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, or sorry, Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments or questions? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. All right, and I'll go to our corporate officer next for, oh, sorry, we should get a motion to receive all the informational correspondence. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And I'll go to our corporate officer to read out the reports from in camera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council releases for public consumption, notice of entry into mutual aid agreements between the City of Port Alberni and the Regional District of Nanaimo and the City of Port Alberni and the Town of Qualicum Beach for a term of 5 years for the purpose of providing additional resources between parties to emergency incidents. Council releases for public consumption execution of the agreements between the City of Port Alberni and Matthews West Developments for the SOMAS lands, including a master developer agreement, an option to purchase agreement, and a partnering agreement. Council releases for public consumption that an agreement was reached between the City of Port Alberni and the Canadian Union of Public Employees effective March 31st, 2025 for a 3-year term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to inquire as to when the documents between Port Alberni and Matthews West Developments, when those 3 agreements will be available on our website for public viewing.
Thanks for the question. We're just asking to get the documents redacted, and then we'll have them on the Let's Connect page under the SOMAS project.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And another question regarding the Matthew West development. A lot of people would like to know the next steps. What's going to happen? Do we have some idea?
Tell us about master plan.
Yes.
Thanks for the question. Lots is happening. Right now, we are sharing lots of documents, background documents from the site. But I know Matthews is excited to start coming here and moving forward. I know there will be a considerable public input gained. But I believe the next steps are to establish those timelines and get them out. But it is about, I know council and the public want to see this move as fast as possible, but we also have to make sure we do our due diligence and make sure that we give Matthews all the necessary documents they need to make sure they're very well informed when they are talking with the public. I know there will be geotechnical studies happening, a review on the environmental, and we'll need to look at some of the structural viability of some of the buildings that have remained on site.
Thank you. And I think it's just so important as we do go through these next steps with Matthews West that the public really does stay engaged following that Let's Connect PA.ca website and the SOMAS section of that. As Matthews West does start moving into planning and community engagement, I know that they've really talked a lot about needing the community to be engaged in that so that they can really build a project that is Port Alberni at heart and not kind of come in from out of the community and build what works for them. As they did in Squamish when we went on our tour, we really saw a lot of kind of Squamish feel small projects built into the first stages of that project. And they were really clear that those projects came as a result of the public input that they received and the community really coming out to tell them what they wanted to see on the site. So hope our community will engage in the same way and we can build something that will really suit us long term. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was just the next step, so thank you very much for that question. Just the other one I would just want to pull out is the agreement between the QP Local 118 and the City of Port Alberni. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the QP employee members, Local 118, and their city staff for bargaining in good faith, having the patience, and getting the job done. So I look forward to many more, at least the next 3 years, of course, of highly trained workers out and working for the City of Port Alberni and working well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. Agree completely. All right, we will move on to council reports. Any items councillors would like to speak to in reports? Seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And we have one item of new business today, and it is a report from the Director of Finance on police services update and providing council with the updated summary of police resources in the province.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as we have done in the past, we provided the information to council as part of the financial planning process to ensure that you have the information you require to ensure that you have the information to make your decisions on funding for the services that we provide. And obviously with the 2023 police resources in BC, it was delayed in release. So we had provided council with the 2022 report and then the 2024 information that we could update. So within this report, it is an update based on the 2023 report that we just received. So if we can just go over a few things and just remind council that as a municipality, because we are over 15%, we are responsible for 90% of the costs of policing through the RCMP contract. At 90% in 2025, and that's on the 2025 year for the City of Port Alberni's year, not the federal year, it's $247,000 per officer. And we have the allocation of 34 officers in the community. When we look at the province's report, we see that the city had that allocation of 34 officers for a population of 19,702 people. And then we look across the province and they state that the average ratio is 1 to 579 per officer for population. And the City of Port Alberni is the third highest as far as municipalities go, over 15,000 with the RCMP contract services. So we were sitting at 1 to 805 population. With that, when we look at the cost per capita for the RCMP, we are the highest for that in the province. We're at 510, whereas the average was at 299. So we are $211 higher than the provincial average. And just doing the ratio, when we look at the officers and the average across the province, the average would be for our population of 19,702, we'd be around 25 officers. Once again, in Table 1, when we look at the rural areas, that is where the rural properties pay in their taxation, and this is all information that's provided through the BC tax burden on the provincial site. You can see that there's a significant difference, and this was in the prior report, but there's a significant difference in the cost of a rural property versus a city property when it comes to policing. And as the RCMP and police services is the largest portion of the financial plan, it's 26.66%, and that's quite a bit higher than the other municipalities in the region. So when we look at the RCMP contract costs, it had increased $681,000 over the prior year, or 9.35%. The entire police services budgeted, and Mayor, you alluded to it, the increases that we put into the admin accounted for 11.41%, an increase over the 2024 year. So when we look at the overall cost for the City of Port Alberni, it's $9.5 million, and that includes the components that we have as far as revenue that we receive from policing services. So when we updated and we tried to provide information to council, we did look at doing the levels of service, and as you can see in the attachment, to this report. It provides the details of all the revenue and expenses associated with police services in our detachment. And the police services accounts for 3.14% of the overall 13.98% increase in 2025. There is the schedule, so obviously there's the report that's provided, but the municipal units, RCMP, with populations higher than 15,000, there's a report attachment there that sorts that and shows the detail that is referenced in this report. So, Council, this was an update that was promised to you and just providing the information you need to make your decisions. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll hand it back to Council.
Thank you very much for the information. Are there questions from council? Councillor Solda.
I don't think it's really a question. I just think policing has changed so much, and it's not, police officers aren't doing what they're doing because they're working with mental health, drug addictions, and all the other stuff that policing, and I sure wouldn't want to be a police officer in this day and age because of what they have to go through at this. And fire departments are in the same boat too. So not fun, and it's just really sad that where we've come in a society. I just wanted to say that, and kudos to our emergency services. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Haggard.
I think this just further supports the real need in our community to continue advocating for community crisis response teams for our community and how important it is and how much we need it here. And also, if staff could work with Inspector Bruce, I don't know if you already had these discussions, if there's any other initiatives in the province that's or even federally across the country that are working for communities to help alleviate some of that workload from our RCMP officers. We can take a look at, see if it's going to work for our community and advocate for support to the province for that funding.
Thank you. I think that the numbers are, like the number that we often look to is that regional district versus municipality split. And that is the one that is most shocking to me. I know, and Inspector Bruce highlighted earlier in the day, or earlier in our meeting, the low crime in the regional district. And while I understand and appreciate that there's low crime in the rural areas, there's low crime on my street as well. There's low crime in a lot of our areas of the community. However, we happen to live within the municipality, and therefore we pay a significantly higher price. The crime that exists here is no more my crime than it is someone's crime who lives in Beaver Creek or Beaufort or anywhere else. It's all of our crime. It's the social challenges that exist in the community, and that is the responsibility of all of us. So I continue to feel that we need to, well, we do continue to advocate, but there needs to be a greater change to the RCMP, or sorry, not RCMP, the policing act at the provincial level on how these costs are split, because rural residents should not pay a fraction of what municipal residents do for a service that is the same. If I phone the RCMP, they're going to come. And if there's an emergency in Beaver Creek, they're going to come just the same. They're going to prioritize just like they would anything else, and I think it's important that we all contribute in an equal way. I really appreciate these numbers, and I appreciate them coming at the same time as the RCMP report earlier today, because I think they tell two very different sides of the same issue, and it just shows how many different ways there are to look at this. I think it's worth noting and well received, the note from Inspector Bruce earlier today that we have not meaningfully increased the size of our RCMP member complement in a very long time. And I think that's a really important thing for us to remember. We know that the crime has gotten worse. We know that the severity and challenge of the crime has gotten worse. And lastly, we know that the requirements on RCMP for reporting have gotten extremely more challenging. So while we have tried to increase, I would say, the support to RCMP, we haven't increased the complement of RCMP members. And I think that is something that we need to reflect on, because while we're trying to make a difference, it might not be the right way of supporting the service. At the same time, I think it's important to remember that we are the highest per capita cost of policing in the province. And that is a very challenging thing to hear. It's where we've been for a long time, and we know that. Another area that we advocated to the Minister of Public Safety on over the last few years was still around RCMP and policing formula for cost breakdown, but it was on a different formula. So rather than just apportioning, we asked that RCMP costs and policing costs in the province be more than just on population. So we're over 15,000 in population, therefore we pay 90% of the cost. Versus other areas that are under and pay significantly less. Tofino, for instance, I think pays 50% of their cost because they are under 5,000 in population. It might be 30, but I think it's 50. I would argue that the average person in Tofino, property owners, have a much higher ability to pay than the average property owner in Port Alberni. So there are far better mechanisms in this day and age that we could use to determine how a municipality is apportioned and pays for cost of policing services. And I think some of these changes would make it a lot less controversial, because right now it is a cost challenge, just like we just went through with our budget where we made a lot of reductions to services that are important services. Same goes to RCMP. I think we would all like to have more officers, more support. We had a request from fire to increase firefighters, and we didn't do that as a result of budget. We end up making decisions that are budget focused rather than what does our community need focused, because we end up in a challenging position. And I think if some of these higher level provincial formulas were different, these decisions would be easier to make. So I think that we should continue, and I will invite Inspector Bruce up in a moment in case she wants to make any comment, because she looked like she did. But I think we need to we need to continue strategically advocating to the province on some of these initiatives that we'd like to see. And I'll just lastly say that a few years ago, we had a meeting of communities with high crime rates and high RCMP costs. It was at UBCM. You were there. I broke my foot right after, actually, leaving that meeting. I was ranting about costs of RCMP and I broke my foot. But not about RCMP costs, but about breakdown between community costs and regional district costs. And that had some really good momentum. And then unfortunately, a lot of the people who were at that meeting, there was an election a few weeks after. Several of them did not get reelected. There was some staff changes in other communities as well. And the group kind of never continued. But I'd really like to consider maybe Port Alberni getting that group back together. There was about 10 communities who were all significantly higher than average in cost of policing per capita. And the meeting was really productive in that nobody was talking about reducing the size of our police services. It was about how do we more equitably spread this, because often the communities with high policing costs are also the communities with high poverty rates, with high child poverty rates, and so on. So again, the highest costs, and in a lot of cases, the lowest ability to pay. So I'd really like to consider organizing getting that group back together. It could be something that could be done electronically, or we could put together some background and arrange another meeting at UBCM. Although it would be really nice to have some meetings prior, so that at UBCM we could send a collective of municipalities who are all struggling with some of the same issues around crime rate and therefore around cost of policing as well, to have a joint meeting with the Minister of Public Safety, so that we could have maybe more of an impact than just our community going on our own. I think that's all I have to say on this topic. Inspector Bruce, you're welcome to come up if you want to make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. It's so nice to hear you articulate those challenges back in ways that I probably couldn't have articulated as well. But when I read that this was going to be presented today, I did have a bit of a response prepared, and I wanted to be able to speak to the very reality that this is one metric and one factor in a constellation of factors that should be seriously considered. And some of these other factors need to be given significant more weight, as it would be dangerous to this community's safety to predicate decisions on one piece of information alone. This metric is relevant insofar as believing all things to be equal: population, policing demands, and an established strength. And I think I've already communicated that Port Alberni's policing demands are significant and extraordinary. There's a lot of different methods for determining police resources level. I don't want to have to go through all of those today. I think everyone here is aware of those. This metric shows a dollar cost savings, which I can appreciate, but it doesn't show the human cost. And I think, as Councillor Haggard stated earlier, that there's no cost to human lives. The municipal crime rate, echoing again, is double that of municipal averages elsewhere, second only to Prince George with nearly 4 times the budget and 149 members per the police resources guide that you see. Any reduction in the existing complement of authorized strength here in Port Alberni would, in my view, be an incredible erosion of public confidence if there were a reduced ability to provide those frontline police services and deliverables in actioning people's needs. That's not even inclusive of the also very real cost to the men and women who serve in uniform every day to keep this community safe. They are assaulted, they are spat on. I think you've seen in the news, there was coverage on a Vancouver member that was set on fire. I don't want to be dramatic, but the reality is that there's dangers inherent to policing, and we're doing all we can to maintain our resilience in the face of some of what we're meeting on the streets here. Again, officers are required to manage a caseload more than twice that of their peer counterparts in other municipalities, and this has been this is only getting worse. It's not getting better. I will say this over and over again. Port Alberni is extremely fortunate to have the caliber and complement of officers that they do posted here. They are an invested group. They are an effective group. I have policing experience that takes me back to the Lower Mainland, and I can tell you that working in Port Alberni, I'm seeing people that want nothing more than to establish roots here and raise their families here. They're not anxious to leave, and they're dedicated to seeing this community be safe and thrive. It goes without saying, but a reduction would compromise officer safety and could easily incite their decisions and desire to work elsewhere. I would be echoing things that I said earlier if I speak to crime reduction initiatives. The ideal is 70-30, 70 being reactive and 30 being proactive. I already stated that we're not able to deliver on that 30% proactive to identify needs and mitigate them in the first instance. We've been asked to assign a school liaison officer for I think it's 13 schools that are here in this jurisdiction, and we can't because they have to collapse that position to the front line. We're already leveraging funding from the Provincial Tactical Enforcement Priority, PTEP, initiatives, SITE, which stands for Special Investigation and Targeted Enforcement Program, to deal with repeated violent offender cases. We're doing all we can to try to deal with the problems that are plaguing Port Alberni. I will say this, I felt the report is not fair-minded because if we're looking at decrease in order to be transparent, then we should also be looking at the cost to increase and augment the number of members that we have in Port Alberni. Any reduction would severely impact, if not decimate, our call responsibility. I point to the one feature of how we respond to priority responses. We call it ICIR, which is Initial Critical Incident Response, which requires priority response of several, if not all of our members when they're on duty to go and hold and contain and render safe a situation for other units to roll in. Without taking too much more time, I would just urge and encourage that any deliberations on this topic cease with a view of looking at reduction and rather take another view altogether from a different perspective.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your extra comments. And I will just say that I don't think there is a suggestion being made here that, or in the report, that we do reduce the size of the service, rather just a financial comparison so that there's full understanding. And those comparisons really, I think, do help us in our higher level conversations with province and in other areas as well. So it's important information to have. Sorry, Andrew's saying I have something to say and then never mind. But they really do help and prepare us for when we do go to the province to have these higher level conversations. We can be a lot more effective when we have the information in front of us. So, I think as you've heard here today as well, there's certainly an understanding from council and I know from staff as well that a reduction to the level of officers that we have would be incredibly challenging. And we do recognize fully the caseload that's on our officers as well. And I know that information is in the report also. Did you want to add anything, Andrew? Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other comments? Well, I just want to, I know I saw you guys writing when I was talking about that meeting. You got it. Okay, wonderful. I think that would be just a good initiative in the next couple of months if we could prepare something and then request a joint meeting at UBCM. It'd be nice to get that back on track. Thank you. Okay. Would somebody like to move receipt of this report? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And thanks very much, Andrew, for the report. Move on to question period, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council on decisions or recommendations made during the course of the meeting. Up to 3 questions per speaker are permitted. Mr. Kannegeeser.
Good afternoon. Well, the council is getting close to completing the budget cycle. One more reading of the tax bylaw, and then you'll be able to sell out the invoices. Looking at the table 1, then the revised role assessment, some interesting stuff when you dig into it a little bit deeper. I just wanted to bring to council's attention. I'm sure you're aware, but interesting that the light industry assessment fell 22.6% from 24.5 million to 20 million. That's the big hole. In doing that, the percent of the tax share of the light industry fell from 3.18 to 2.77. Everything may say, hey, it looks good. When you look at the mill rate, the tax rate, for those remaining businesses in the light industry category, where their assessment was the same, or pray tell, even higher, but if it was the same as it was last year, they're going to pay 22.5% more taxes than did last year. And I assume council's aware of that. Businesses will pay 9% more, the homeowner will pay 14.5%, depending on, so it's just the inequity, I think, and to just make sure that you're well aware of that anomaly in your tax plan. In the AV News of March 19th, the mayor was quoted as saying, when the Sand Group filed for creditor protection in 2024, the city lost over $1 million taxpayer in the 2025 budget year. As a result of this, we had to make some extremely significant changes to our budget. The budget revenue went up 15%, so the corresponding budget expenses went up 15%. So rather than ask what were those significant changes you had to make to hold it at a 15% increase in tax revenue, I'll reverse the question and ask you, what were the components of those increases, those budget increases, those expense increases that caused the budget to go up 15%? Can you explain that either today or perhaps you'll explain it in the newsletter that you send out with the tax invoices?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I can't give you an exact breakdown today, obviously, although it probably will be in the newsletter. That typically does go out. I know today was highlighted 3% of that. Roughly, it was 13 was the rough average, but 3% of the 13 was RCMP increase. I think fire was another percentage. Infrastructure was pretty significant, but that typically does get broken down in the information that goes out with the budget. And it also has been well covered along the way, though we have had many, many budget meetings. I know at the beginning of budget, Andrew presented from where our original budget was, which I think was sitting at 22% or something like that, what that 22% increase was made up of.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you've had many, many meetings, and I know it's been not fun meetings to attend and to participate in, and I appreciate that. As I said before, I've been there and done that, but when the taxes go up by 15%. I think the public deserves to know why those expenditures have gone up, not just in percentages, but in real absolute dollars as to where those major budget lines have increased. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, would somebody like to move adjournment? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.